Breaking news, officers from across Missoula County and even neighboring counties remain on the lookout for a suspect who was not involved in just one but two overnight shootouts. Dennis Bragg explains how this crisis began to develop late last night.
Missoula police received the initial call shortly before 11 p.m. Thursday night with reports of gunfire and that multiple people had been shot near the Stone Creek Lodge at Expressway and Tanager Way. Sergeant Travis Wells says when the first officers rolled up, they confirmed two people had been shot and a third uninjured person had made the 911 call. From the very beginning, Missoula units were looking for a Cadillac SUV with patrol cars fanning out and looking throughout the surrounding residential area and starting to block off traffic to preserve the crime scene and evidence on Expressway. But after the initial police response here at Expressway, the scene quickly changed, with officers going as far north as Evero and as far south as Lolo in attempts to locate the suspect. And that's when other agencies began to jump into the case.
The jurisdiction changed in January, so that used to be county property. Now it's actually city property. But we have MHP, obviously the Missoula County Sheriff's Office, Missoula Police Department, Airport Police, and then we have multiple agencies in neighboring counties.
And that response ramped up quickly after the report of the second officer-involved shooting on Evero Hill less than an hour later, forcing investigators to not only look for the shooter, but cope with the additional stress.
There's two active investigations that are very fresh. There's so many different moving parts, and so yeah, I think that with the different jurisdictions, they're still working on a lot of those details.
For a time after the shooting, Providence St. Patrick Hospital, where the first victims were taken, was on a security lockdown as a precaution.
It's moving very fast, so we're just really trying to take care of that number one priority of keeping the public safe.
In Missoula, Dennis Bragg, MTN News.
We have an update on a story we've been following throughout the morning. The suspect at large has been in custody with the Missoula County Sheriff's Office. Now, this suspect, who is involved in not just one but two overnight shootings. Now, authorities have confirmed with KPAX News one of the incidents is an officer-involved shooting. Montana Highway Patrol trooper was shot by the suspect, now in custody. We're going to go live now to KPAX's Connor McCauley. He's been on the scene. He joins us now live with the very latest. Connor?
Thanks, Ken. At approximately 6:15 this morning, the Missoula County Sheriff's Special Response Team took Jonathan Birch into custody on the 1600 block of Thornburg Way without incident. No other suspects are being sought, and residents are now welcome to leave their homes. The highway will be open within the next half hour. Earlier today, law enforcement moved past the Y at incredible speeds, continuing up Highway 93 in pursuit of a suspect connected to two different shootings in Missoula County. Montana Highway Patrol, along with MPD and tribal police, could be spotted at the Grey Wolf Casino searching for the suspect and clues to his location. Shortly after law enforcement left the casino, they responded to a report of shots fired near Evero Hill. When I arrived on scene, every agency was on hand trying to track down the location of the shooter. The scene was frantic as cars raced by, heading north in hot pursuit of the suspect. Law enforcement at one point had the hotel surrounded with weapons drawn, and there were still MHP troopers stationed outside, but now that the suspect is in custody, things will probably lighten up.
All right, thanks, Connor. I just want to touch base again on the Montana Highway Patrol trooper who was shot earlier this morning due to this incident. Now, the male suspect, like we said, he is in custody now, but the trooper has been transported and is currently hospitalized with injury sustained from this incident.
Good evening, I'm Jill Valley. Dennis Bragg is on assignment. He will be joining us shortly. One person is dead and a Montana Highway Patrol trooper is fighting for his life in a Salt Lake City hospital tonight after a series of shootings that happened in Missoula County overnight. The suspect in the shooting was taken into custody nearly 7 hours after two separate shooting incidents. Here is how this all started. Missoula police received the initial call shortly before 11 o'clock last night with reports of gunfire and word that two men and a woman had been shot near the Stone Creek Lodge on Expressway Boulevard. One of the three people shot last night was killed in the shooting. The sheriff has identified the man as Shelley Hayes. The suspect, identified as 28-year-old Jonathan Birch, fled the scene. Trooper Wade Palmer then located the suspected vehicle near the Evero Bar and Casino this morning on Highway 93 North just after midnight. Trooper Palmer was then shot by the suspect while the officer was sitting in his patrol car. Dennis Bragg has been covering this developing situation since the early morning hours. He joined us now live near the Y with the very latest tonight. Dennis.
That's right, Joe. We had two sites of gun violence here, and that's what made it confusing last night. It's what's making it tough for investigators to try to piece all this together today. Here's what we know this afternoon. Missoula police detectives working on the first crime scene where those three people were shot near Expressway. Missoula Police Sergeant Travis Welsh says they're still looking for the connection between those victims and the suspect, Jonathan Birch. They're also trying to figure out the motive behind the violence, what caused all this to happen. They do believe this incident is connected with the later shooting on Evero Hill. The Highway Patrol says Trooper Wade Palmer saw the suspect's car near the Evero Bar and Casino early this morning, but when another trooper arrived on the scene to help him, he found Palmer still seatbelted in his patrol car, shot and critically wounded. The suspect had vanished. Felony officer pulled Trooper Wade out of the car, rushed him back here to the Y, where he was taken to St. Patrick Hospital in critical condition. Early this afternoon, he was airlifted to a Salt Lake City hospital for treatment. Then, just after 6 o'clock this morning, Missoula County Sheriff's Department officers arrested Jonathan Birch off Highway 93 North without further incident. No one else was hurt. When we returned to the scene this afternoon, the Department of Criminal Investigation was on the scene where Trooper Palmer was shot. It's a case that's requiring a lot of interviews and witness statements, and even as law enforcement officers work the case with professionalism, their hearts are heavy.
You know, this is one of those things where we all know it could happen. You know, we all leave our homes at the beginning of our shift. It's always in the back of our minds that it could happen. There's always that question of whether we're going to come home that night or that next morning. But when it actually happens and you see it and you know that person, or maybe you've worked with that person, it really hits hard. And, you know, we consider that law enforcement is one big family. And in this particular case, Trooper Palmer is one of our brothers. And, you know, we're praying for him, and our hearts are breaking for him and his family and the whole department.
Trooper Wade Palmer has been with the Montana Highway Patrol since 2012. He's stationed in Detachment 112, that's here in Missoula. Trooper Palmer has a wife and 2 young children. You may remember that 4 years ago he was awarded the patrol's highest honor, the Medal of Valor, for his heroic life-saving efforts at the scene of a multiple vehicle crash involving a mother and her young children. That was in the middle of the winter, December 2014, here in Missoula County. In 2015, he was awarded the patrol's highest honor, the Medal of Valor, for his heroic life-saving efforts, again at the scene of that crash, helping those young children. Now, Trooper Palmer's colleague, Trooper TJ Templeton, who we know very well, tweeted this afternoon, "I'm still lost in the fog of this. Pain, anger, frustration, exhaustion, helplessness. Please pray for Wade and his family." I can't even think to tweet, "Please pray for my brother." Reporting live near the Y, Dennis Bragg, MTN News. Back to you, Jill.
Governor Steve Bullock today released the following statement after Wade Palmer was critically injured in the line of duty. He says, quote, "Lisa and I are heartbroken to hear that one of Montana's finest is in critical condition. Trooper Wade Palmer showed extreme courage in the face of danger early this morning, and I know that his actions made our state safer." Commended with the Montana Highway Patrol's highest honor, the Medal of Valor, Trooper Palmer has always been committed to doing his best for this state. His family and colleagues are in the hearts and prayers of all Montanans. Now, there are GoFundMe accounts set up for these victims. One set up for Trooper Wade Palmer. There's one for Shelley Hayes and another for Casey Blanchard. We have all of that information on our website at kpax.com. Again, we will be continuing to cover the story as new information becomes available.